said Mr. Thompson. "Fate has put it in my power to honour your arrival with something really original by way of dessert. A mystery." "A mystery?" I repeated. "Yes," said his friend, "a mystery. It may prove to be nothing, and it may prove to be a great deal, but in the meanwhile it is truly mysterious, no eye having looked on it for near 100 years. It is highly genteel, for it treats of a titled family, and it ought to be melodramatic, for, according to the superscription, it is concerned with death." "I think I rarely heard a more obscure or a more promising enunciation," the other remarked. "But what is it?" "You remember my predecessor's, old Peter Mabraire's business?" "I remember him acutely. He could not look at me without a pang of reprobation, and he could not feel the pang without betraying it. He was to me a man of a great historical interest, but the interest was not returned." "Ah, well, we go beyond him," said Mr. Thompson. "I dare say old Peter knew as little about this as I do. You see, I succeeded to a prodigious accumulation of old law papers and old tin boxes, some of them of Peter's hoarding, some of his father's, John, first of the dynasty, a great man in his day. Among other collections were all the papers of the Durrisdeers." "The Durrisdeers?" cried I. "My dear fellow, these may be of the greatest interest. One of them was out in the 45. One had some strange passages with the devil. You will find a note of it in Law's Memorials, I think. And there was an unexplained tragedy, I know not what, much later, about 100 years ago." "More than 100 years ago," said Mr. Thompson. "In 1783. "How do you know that? I mean, some death." "Yes, the lamentable deaths of my Lord Durrisdeer and his brother, the Master of Ballantrae, attainted in the troubles," said Mr. Thompson, with something the tone of a man quoting. "Is that it?" "To say truth," said I have only seen some dim reference to the things in memoirs, and heard some traditions dimmer still through my uncle, whom I think you knew. My uncle lived, when he was a boy, in the neighbourhood of St. Bride's. He has often told me of the avenue closed up and grown over with grass, the great gates never opened, the last lord and his old maid sister, who lived in the back parts of the house. A quiet, plain, poor, humdrum couple, it would seem, but pathetic, too, as the last of that stirring and brave house, and, to the country folk, faintly terrible from some deformed traditions." "Yes," said Mr. Thompson. "Henry Graham Durie, the last lord, died in 1820. His sister, the Honourable Miss Catherine Durie, in 27. So much I know, and by what I have been going over the last few days, they were, what you say, decent, quiet people, and not rich. To say truth, it was a letter of my lord's that put me on the search for the packet we are going to open this evening. Some papers could not be found, and he wrote to Jack Mabraire, suggesting they might be among those sealed up by a Mr. Mackellar. Mabraire answered that the papers in question were all in Mackellar's own hand, all, as the writer understood, of a purely narrative character, and besides, said he, I am bound not to open them before the year 1889. You may fancy if these words struck me. I instituted a hunt through all the Mabraire repositories, and at last hit upon that packet, which, if you have had enough wine, I propose to show you at once. In the smoking room, to which my host now led me, was a packet, fastened with many seals, and enclosed in a single sheet of strong paper, thus endorsed: Papers relating to the lives and lamentable deaths of the late Lord Durrisdeer and his elder brother James, commonly called Master of Ballantrae, attainted in the troubles, entrusted into the hands of John Mabraire, in the Lawn Market of Edinburgh, W.S., this 20th day of September, Anno Domini 1789.